Today, we're discussing the 102 in our Dynasty Fantasy Football Leagues. We're going to be discussing what we're doing with this pick from a Superflex standpoint, from a strategy, tiering up, tiering down, trading cross-positionally, as well as how we're handling this in a contender versus a rebuilder, and who we're taking here. Stick around for all that and more. And welcome into the Dino Construction Podcast. Justin joined with David and JP. Hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss any of our videos about what we're doing with every first in this 26 class. Going to be coming out with these over the next month. So these are all going to be from a Superflex standpoint. Tight end Premium 1.75 as well for tight end valuations. What you're going to do if you don't play in those league settings, Mendoza probably going near the end of the first round. Not considered in this tier like he's going to be in Superflex if you're playing single QB. Tight ends, knock him back a few slots, probably 5 to 6 draft slots, something along that line. So that being said, gonna jump into our tier video. What we're doing here, again, if you've missed the other ones, is we are discussing what we are doing at every pick, who we're taking, and strategy. So we already took Jeremiah Love with the 101. JP, I'm going to ask you with the 102 because this is an incredibly valuable pick. You just had it in one league. You were on the clock. You fielded offers. How are you handling this pick when you're looking to start contending and maybe that asset isn't necessarily a contending asset that you're taking there, at least year one?
Yeah, the first thing that I did was I was looking to see if I could package the 102 with something else to work my way up to a tier 1 or tier 2 wide receiver running back. That's what I was exploring. This league, I was not able to get that done. I also was looking at maybe just getting a more established wide receiver because as much as I love this wide receiver class, if you're contending, you probably want a little bit more certainty. And I was looking, like I could look at somebody like Tet. I already had Tet on my team. But I think somebody in the range of George Pickens, Igbuka, Nico Collins, those were options I at least kicked around. But on the clock, I was very excited to take the wide receiver still that I think is the best in this class. But I think on a contender, I still have to shop it around. I still have the chance that if this player that I took at 102 does go as the wide receiver 1 in the NFL draft, I think even then I might be able to sell him still. So I decided to just go ahead and take the asset for now since I wasn't able to get one of those hammers.
And David, how are you handling this pick if you are rebuilding?
Yeah, I mean, if I can trade back and get a decent 27 first and then another first pretty much anywhere in this round, then maybe not 111, 112, but if I can get in that next tier, the 106 to like 109-ish.
What is the lowest pick you'll take? Getting a, let's say, random 27 first.
I think 109. And I still get either one of the other 3 receivers I really like or Sadiq. That is with the 175 premium. If we're losing that tight end premium 108, I think. And if I think it's a playoff 27 first, I need a better pick. But if it's truly random, I think it has a chance to not be at a playoff first. I'm interested in that. I don't mind trying to tier down, but like there is risk involved. We see this as a 4-player tier right now. There's definitely a chance one of these receivers doesn't get the draft capital we expect. There's a chance one doesn't go to a place that we like, or maybe that's the same player. Maybe those are 2 different players. I think having the safety of getting your choice of this tier is valuable. Of course, I'm willing to move it for the right price, but I'm not willing to move down to 105 for anything yet, or 104. I'd probably switch with 103 for very little just because I still feel confident we're going to at least love 2 of these 3 receivers after the draft. But I'd hate to move down to 104 or 105 and then it get blown up by the draft and all of a sudden it looks like a terrible trade. Haven't even played any games, haven't even started the draft yet, and I'm already regretting it. I don't love that. So I don't mind being patient with the 102, but like JP said, if I can use it to do something else that I want to do, that's great. So rebuilder, get me some extra 27 capital and still get a player this year. I think that'd be the main target.
Alrighty, and we're going to dive into actual trades in real leagues in a minute here. Let's just discuss the players that we're actually looking at here. So, this 4-person tier we talked about: Tyson, Tate, Lemon, and Mendoza. Of course, Mendoza is going to be going 101 to Oakland, 101 to Las Vegas. Lemon is a phenomenal wide receiver. I know is just getting some real love and early first round buzz. But the other two guys are both of your 102s. So I'm going to ask both of you to give me your pitch for your 102s in this draft class.
Yeah, I guess I'll go first, since he's been my guy this whole time. I'm sticking with it. If you've been following along, first of all, thanks, but also you already know who I'm going to say. If not, my guy's been Jordan Tyson this whole time. He's my wide receiver 1. Draft capital, landing spots, that could change that. I love Carnell Tate and Mekhi Lemon as prospects as well. I just feel like Tyson offers the most. I think you probably don't want him to be your every down X receiver. Like, I don't think that's going to be his most successful spot, but I think he can line up there within the scheme. I think he can survive out there for some downs. I think you put him at flanker, you move him around a little bit. I think he can play in the slot. I think Lemon, I worry about whether he's going to be able to play outside. I think he'll be able to survive outside, but survive's not really what I'm looking for. Tate, I think he is the big play X receiver. I worry about his consistency within an offense. I think Tyson, he does it all. We have concerns about his injury history, but it's hard for me to knock a player. It's not like these injuries have been related. The one major knee injury he's had some soft tissue with his hamstring. Soft tissue concerns me. I get all that. But I just think when you watch him play and he's healthy, he's the guy that I see most likely as an alpha receiver of this group. So until I've been given a reason to change it, I'm sticking with Tyson at wide receiver 1. But again, I really like all 3 of these guys.
Yeah, I think Tyson's great. He's not my wide receiver 1, though. My wide receiver 1 is Carnell Tate. And a few of the biggest things with him is, A, he's an early declare. B, he's coming from Ohio State, just NFL-ready wide receiver factory right over there. And C, he's also being talked about as the consensus wide receiver 1 in the NFL draft circles. It's not a lock right now, right? Anything could happen, but that he seems to be the early favorite to be the wide receiver 1 in this draft class. A couple of things that I really, really love about him is he's just one of the most reliable catchers of the football in this entire draft class. I mean, the hands are spectacular. He didn't register, I believe, as a single drop the entire year. He's got huge, huge hands, and that translates with his catch percentage. And also, as a contested catch wide receiver, he is truly one of the best. And it's really fun that this morning that the reception perception profile had dropped on Carnell Tate. And in RP's sample, he won 91.7% of his contested targets. That is truly, truly elite. And also, of the top 5 wide receivers that he's released so far, it does not include Omar Cooper to this point. But Carnell Tate had the second best man success rate and the second best pressed success rate of the top 5 wide receivers. So very, very reliable in those departments. The zone is a little bit lower than I want to see, but he is the youngest wide receiver in this class also. So he has plenty of room to grow on top of all of this. So this is why I love Carnell Tate a lot, and he is my current wide receiver 1.
Yeah, just real quick before you move on, Justin, since I forgot to mention the reception perception, I wanted to bring that up. JP, thanks for reminding me. Tyson, almost 90th percentile success rate against zone coverage, 89th percentile. Love to see that. I had some other issues, but none of these wide receiver prospects are perfect, and we accept that. So love to see his success against zone, though, considering that's what we see most in the NFL.
Yeah, and that definitely can help him eat as a rookie, especially a rookie that plays multiple positions, potentially spends some time inside, outside, etc. So now, before we actually make our pick, we're going to entertain all offers. We're going to work the phones a little bit and look at some trade options. These occurred either in real leagues we are in, or we stole them from dynastydaddy.com. And this pick can get a pretty decent haul, right? What we're looking at here. So we're gonna see some pretty great options. The first one is going to be taking the 102 and Baker Mayfield to tier up to Joe Burrow. This one I'm pretty willing to do that if I have the cash to spend to get safer at QB. I might end up regretting that if Baker Mayfield goes back to where he was a year ago. I'm not sure that that's the likely outcome. So I'm pretty willing to take sad boy Joe Burrow. JP, interested in your opinion on this one?
Yeah, I'm pretty happy to consolidate into Joe Burrow with Mike Evans being gone. Chris Godwin's getting a little older, very injury prone. Really like Emeka Egbuka, but the second half of the year they weren't on the same page either. So I just think that the volatility with Baker Mayfield, after he was coming off a very, very high touchdown percentage season, the regression was bound to hit, and it hit harder than we could have expected. And he is getting older. I think the value there is with Joe Burrow.
Any differing opinion, David?
Not really. No, I guess my question would be, how high are we willing to go? Would we go like Stroud or Cam Ward? Are we willing to go above that tier? For me, it'd be kind of hard, but I could see adding 102 to Stroud or Cam Ward and just getting the safe asset in Joe Burrow. I don't know if I can go higher than that though, because we're starting to get into pretty reliable quarterbacks once we get above that.
Yeah, I'm not willing to really go above that, but I think that's a really nice line. And you know me, I'm always willing to sell Stroud. Always. Now looking at the 102, we've seen this moved for the 106 plus the 110. So we're just outside of that range that we really like. We're just outside of that 105, and we're getting the 106 and the 110. I can see going either way here. I'm pretty happy. I'm pretty happy probably to stick with the 102 in most situations, unless I really need to split the asset and go for the depth. I'm curious your guys' opinion, and also tell me if I knew I could roll that 106 into a 27 first, a random 27 first. That's when I'm starting to get real intrigued instead, almost, which is crazy that line is 106, but just the flexibility of not having to make two picks and maybe miss twice later on.
I think at the top of the show I said 109, so I'm not going to change my answer. I would still be interested at a 27 first and 110 contextually, but like I said, 109 is kind of that line for me, and that's the issue with taking the package here. We're missing our second tier and trading right into the top of the third tier, and then the second pick is missing the third tier and trading right to the top of the fourth tier. If it was 105 and 110, definitely would be interested. I would probably do it today without much concern. If it was 106 and like 108, I think I'd be pretty interested, but that 110 scares me because I don't have much confidence in knowing who that's going to be. And obviously anything could change, but I feel pretty solid about 109 and below. Even if someone misses, I think there's a chance somebody else could rise into that range. So it's just off for me on that one. I need one of those picks to be in a higher tier to think about it.
I think pre-draft give me 102, but post-draft I might be open to doing the 106 and 110. I want to see who's at that 110. Is it RB2 Jonah Coleman with a great spot? Is it Denzel Boston at the very top of the second to the Titans or the Raiders? Like, that's even still intriguing to me. So I think I'll stick with 102 for now, but after the draft, I think I'm going to reconsider.
All right, and next pick exchange we have here is selling a potentially young stud wide receiver for a young productive wide receiver of George Pickens. I'm pretty willing to pay this for George Pickens. Very comfortable to do this if wide receiver is my need and I'm contending. It might be a good move if you're not contending, honestly. If Pickens continues to produce the way he was producing with the Cowboys, we'll see how the offseason plays off with Pickens. I'm sure there'll be some drama as things unfold, etc. But yeah, I'm taking Pickens. David, comfortably, or are you thinking about it?
I actually think this is a perfect like contender rebuilder trade. If you're rebuilding, I'm happy to take the pick. I think you get a little flexibility come draft time at 102, but you also get your pick of the tier if you want it. I think this group of wide receivers has a better chance to go up in the tiers. Obviously, they have a better chance to go down too because there's a lot more risk. And then if I'm competing, I still get a good young wide receiver, but I can trust the production a little bit more. I I'm fine going whichever way your team is going on this one personally.
I think that's the right answer. If I'm forced to make it in a vacuum, honestly, I might say 102, given that CeeDee Lamb, he had that ankle sprain, and I think that kind of plagued him for, part of the season, even when he came back. And I don't think I like Pickens as much if he's traded or if after this year he's gone. But I think that's
or
the
if
right
he
answer.
holds out.
Yeah, that's definitely a factor that you might have to consider here in a couple of months. But I think that's the right answer, the rebuilder versus contender question.
And the next one we saw, very interesting. Somebody is paying moving down from the 102 to the 104. So what we see is the 102 and a 28 first for the 104 and a 27 first. Now we don't have context of is this the 28 first and the 27 first of these two teams that earned those draft picks? So we think that they might both be early, or at least the 27 first might be, if that 104, if this is a non-playoff team from this year. Of course, maybe they're pulling out of it. We don't know. So what we're just going to consider, because I think if we thought that was an early 27 first, there's no question it's the early 27 first is the most valuable pick in the whole thing. So I'm absolutely willing to stay within a tier to pick up the most valuable asset in the trade. So what we're going to look at it from the standpoint of is this is a random 28 first. This is a random 27 first. Is moving down within this tier, but maybe not quite as, David mentioned earlier, the 104 is a little bit more of a pain point, right? Because what if this and this and this go wrong at this point? Is moving up from 28 to 27 worth this to you guys?
So I think the value is clearly on the 104-27 first side, and I'm okay going that direction. That being said, I hate trading my own first 2 years out because you lose so much control of what you can do between now and then. I would need to be a strong contender to trade my 28 first in a move like this, because I don't know that it does a whole lot. I mean, getting the 27 first is great, and I think you'll really love it come draft time 27 year. But if you do need to rebuild, if things just go wrong and you need to rebuild, now you don't have your 28 first, you're putting off your rebuild an extra year, or you have to pay a premium to get your first back. So like I said, I do think the value is clearly on the 104-27 first side. Just personally, I hate trading away a first 2 years out if it's my own, and I have question marks about whether or not I'll be competing that year. So that's I'm taking it if I feel comfortable competing that year. If not, I'm holding on to my first.
I think it's a great question. I still think the 2028 class is going to be good early as well too. I mean, we don't have as much data as we do for 2027, but it's still a lot of projection for quarterbacks and whatnot in 2027. 2028 looks like a great quarterback class as well, especially because a couple of those 27 guys are going to spill into 2028. So right now, I'm just going to stick at 102 and get my pick of the litter in that tier and de-risk a little bit if things do go wrong in the draft for that 104 to lose some value.
All right. I'm taking the 104 and 27 first side at this time. So I'd tie break in that way. But interesting perspective, JP. And I don't necessarily disagree that you have a pick that you have in the 28 first. If you just earn that 102 and your timeline isn't competing the following year, I don't necessarily hate it. But I do just think that the 27 mania, I think you could probably roll that 27 first into a 28 first plus something, which I guess is the whole point of the tearing down from the 102 to the 104. So it definitely is close. So now we've done all of our due diligence here, of course, and the pick is in. We're going to end up, I'm going to break the tie between you guys because my 102 right now as well is going to be the wide receiver from the wide receiver university, Carnell Tate. And my reason why is, on top of all the case that JP made earlier, honestly, he's an Ohio State wide receiver, and that in and of itself is going to have people buying in over the course of the offseason when people are talking about all the things that he's doing right at practice, how great he looks in training camp, all of this stuff, because he's been in a system that teaches people how to play in the NFL. So he's going to hit the ground running, I think, and he's going to, I think, just benefit from camp buzz. So even if my whole situation is like JP said, to either sell him after the NFL draft or sell him in the offseason to tier up, I think he gives me the best ability to do that, because what comes with his name and where he went to school. So that's honestly, at this point, without knowing where they're going and what teams and what landing spots, that's kind of my tiebreaker at this point. All right, so thank you for joining us for another episode of the Dino Construction Podcast. We're going to be doing this whole pick series. 101 already out. 112 will be the last one. We're going to break down trade strategy at every pick. Make sure to drop in the comments any trades you have to do with the 102. Make sure to hit that like, hit that subscribe so you can stick around for the rest of the pick series. And we hope you found this as helpful as it was for us, for you. Until next time, y'all.